Welcome to the Red Pill Diaries. Welcome to the Red Pill Diaries. No, that's not going to be my new theme song. But anyway, I wanted to say hello. It's been a long time, and I've just been moving on. I've just been staying still. Actually, that's what's happened in the last few months. But let's move beyond that. So I was talking a while back about on the channel a few times too about communication paths between these applications. Some people years ago I moved to messaging apps because I could tell that I was being controlled. I move around a lot, so I don't want to be having this phone number to give out to people all the time. So next thing you start communicating through the social media platforms. Then you notice when you get banned from Twitter or something like that, you know, shit, I couldn't get in touch with anyone or people in this certain group that I'm part of. So you start to notice quite quickly that they are owning your relationships, owning your connections, right? And then people moved on to, years ago they already had Skype and stuff, but people moved on to this new resurgence of messaging apps that are more encrypted app like Facebook and stuff like that. And years ago it was Skype and Viber, and nowadays it's Messenger and WhatsApp and Signal and WickerMe and stuff like that, right? And even then they become censored too, or some of them become censored. You can't. I remember sending something to my brother. My brother said the same thing actually, that his conversation between him and his friend got disallowed because, like, for bullying or something. And it's like, I'm not bullying him, I just wrote these certain words, just stuff like that. So what my point is the YouTube. Historically, you could write whatever you wanted. Then they started getting more controls in that. You can't write this. You can't put an email address. That gets blocked. The next thing you know, it just gets tighter and tighter and tighter. Tight as a duck's arse. Then you can turn off comments and all that sort of stuff as well. And I was saying more recently that I bet they'll turn off comments on YouTube as far as by default. Well, we've already seen recently that they turned off the dislike button as soon as Joe Rogan became president, because of course, if you get ratioed, as they call it, and you can see that someone has, let's say, 100 million dislikes and 12,000 likes, then they couldn't possibly have had, 81 million votes for them, could they? It'd be the most popular president ever. So they got rid of the like button, a dislike button. So on these videos, if you look in the White House channel, you'll see that. So I think comments might still have downvotes. Oh no, they don't. They don't have a counter next to it. That's right. You can downvote it, but there's no counter. And then I thought about Joe Rogan having this say, and that guy Patrick David, he's getting interviewed here. I go on Spotify so I can see the full one. The first thing I notice is, oh look, no comment section. That will make sense with a guy who's thought-provoking, and actually, if you look in the comment section of people like him, Jordan Peterson, anyone who's thought-provoking person, or someone who's smart, whatever it might be, that Scott guy who's a bit of a scientist, or whoever it is, the comment section is actually a lot, unless you get some what's it called, bolshy person, someone who's belligerent. For most times you actually get intelligent conversation, people being okay with each other. Same on Joe Rogan's channel. Certain topics in the internet will bring out a certain group of people. The trolls will come out for anything that's to do with partisanship, for example, right? So Joe Rogan stuff, yeah, he gets some toxic sour people, lefties, righties, who don't like him. But for the most part, it's thought-provoking stuff and people get into good conversations. Spotify doesn't have I just noticed this myself. Spotify doesn't have a comment section. Exactly kind of what I was talking about earlier, that they'll get rid of it. As far as I'm concerned, the fact that when Twitter bans something, Facebook does it at the same time. I know that private enterprise is more efficient than government enterprise, or whatever you call it, a government department. But if you look at, for example, how banking organizations need to communicate, certain things can take days, and pretty much everything out there still takes days, especially the larger the organization, right? But yet when it comes to censorship, bang, same time. It just leads me to believe, given that governments, some of these things they'll get away with in America, constitutional things government get away with, is because the censorship's happening on private platforms. Therefore, you're not protected by the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech, right? So therefore, they can do what they want. And let's say the scams that go on YouTube, I talk about quite a lot. That, I mean, YouTube make money off the scammers. They know who they are. They are complicit in the crimes because they actually publish the apps. But then they say, "Oh, we it's not our job because we're not police." Well, why is there no videos on there selling children and selling women for sale, slavery, stuff like that? I mean, that's illegal, but they're not the law. So why don't they allow all that? Because of course they have to follow the law. So for some reason they're getting away with not following the law, which is do not facilitate scam, do not be an accessory to fraud. They're being an accessory to fraud. But isn't it funny how that's not, well, it's not challenged at all by anyone. So one is, there's two sides to this. One, I'm saying that these entities may as well be the same thing. And if you look at like the businesses that I started, I think about the struggle that I went through, even with when the design of my website compared to eBay blew out the water back in days, compared to Trade Me blew out the water. But I couldn't get funding. It was like a lot of these $billion ideas that I come up with that people later on made billions of dollars doing, like in some cases years later. It should have attracted investment quite easy, but it never did. I wonder why that struggles so much with all these ridiculously lucrative opportunities that I was coming up with. Not just that, I can come up with it, build the team, drive the project to actually make it happen. So the only thing I actually need help with is money and marketing. And yet, not once I get anyone stepping in to do any of these fucking ideas. Anyway, what I'm thinking about is, which many people have said before, that basically Facebook and all these companies, they are government operation. For example, imagine Zuckerberg getting paid off by the CIA because they're already monitoring everything everyone does, if you think about it. Echelon Project, these are things that are not secret, it's not conspiracy theory, this is fact. The Five Eyes, everyone's heard of that. The Echelon Project, that was something that started in the 60s or 70s when the same Five Eyes companies were involved, countries. They record every phone conversation. So we've already been spied on for years by our own government. Certain constitutions in certain countries don't permit that, yet the governments do it anyway. They get found out, nothing happens, like always. Two sets of rules. Rules for thee, but not for me. So the point I'm getting to is that they're all just owned by one entity, and that entity is the power structure. The interesting thing is, listen to Joe Rogan and this guy Patrick talk. He was talking about, we could do a social media thing one day, and you can see that Joe Rogan's just not interested in why am I going to talk about this? One is I've got paid $100 million by Spotify to move to a platform where people can't discuss things, so we don't bring people together because we want to block the communication. We also want to channelize the people who follow that mind flow. We want to channelize them into watching that platform. We want to channelize the more neo-Nazi kind of ones who have a chip in their shoulder, on the right mostly, but not exclusively. We want to channel them towards BitChute. We want to channel these ones towards Rumble. We want to channel these other people towards the LBRY and this and that. So then you also have the mainstream channels, the Twitter and this and that, and certain people have their choices, and some move to Parler. Oh, that got taken away. Well, some move to Spotify, or some move to OnlyFans. It just depends what you're into. So they end up having even more control. If you were to say, for example, there's a set of tools you have in information technology called fucking orchestration tools, right? So if you're in a very large environment, you'll use a thing called Puppet Orchestrator, for example, and it will do massive rollouts of various complicated systems. Rather than just a simple, you were installing a bunch of computers here that you're putting on this new app. Damn it! My point is, we already know they've been developing supercomputers for years and years and years. We've got supercomputers, they've been around for a long time. And then we already know they've been working on Q series and D-Wave and all these different quantum computers now for quite a while also. We also know that governments hold everything back from us, even though and they use the excuse of foreign threats. Meanwhile, the lockdown happens in every country. Almost every country decides on the same thing. Reading off the same hymn sheet of talking about this one before, how come they all chose the same wrong answer? They have to be in cahoots because it couldn't happen any other way. What's 9 times 9? 4,681. 150 countries say at the same time. The wrong answer, the same wrong answer. They're reading from the hymn sheet, the same hymn sheet. So what I'm putting to you is that, which I've probably said many times before, they are all a collective energy, but they are all together. These companies that masquerade as separate businesses, that's only because they can get away with more, but it still is just a wing of the government. The government in America, look at the money the Taliban are waving around right now. Look at the billions they lost even in Obama's time. Literally, what do you call it? Pallets of cash. Oh, we don't know what happened to it, and blah blah. You've lost billions, but that billions is people's taxpayers' money, and people are still cheering it on, who are paying big taxes and complaining about their taxes. And they don't want to get free Medicare, but they won't complain about the money going into these illegal wars they did, right? So my point is that all of this can be orchestrated by AI equipment, because if you can take artificial intelligence, like not what they call artificial general intelligence, but just with AI, smart tech, and you can read a movie script, apply algorithms to it, and work out its tone and meter and flow, and whether it'll be a hit or not. Well, and you can also have things that can do strategy in a game to outwit a human being or play chess, whatever it is. So you'll have things far beyond that now. Well, then it also means that you could, based upon the information that you're gleaning from everyone, location, what they're doing, what their capabilities are, if they've got any money on them, and if they're broke, you can put all this information together and actually orchestrate a storyline for almost everyone. Like, for example, let me think. When you're watching your phone and you get a series of a few little, you've turned your notifications on, so you're getting, I don't know, feeds in from YouTube. You've got hundreds of channels on YouTube, 100 notifications, yet this one video comes up and says, watch this one. Okay. All I'm saying is that may not be accident. It may be a string of things. Watching this song followed by that, the NLP will kick in from 4 words here, 2 words there, and next thing you know, you're effectively programming someone through a stream of things. I know it's a little bit far-fetched, but it's not far-fetched that they would all, these companies can ban content within minutes or hours. And yet we know businesses, just big companies, do not operate that fast. So it's the finding the thing you want to block in the first place. 2 is deciding that you're going to block it, and then next is the execution. Well, that's another step now. Contact other company, get to the right person. This is a hotline. Why is that a hotline and other things aren't a hotline? How come customer service can't get through straight away would be the question, or why don't you have customer service? So I think it's quite obvious that these things are all part of the same control grid that shuts off Joe Biden's microphone because he's too incompetent to talk. I think it's all part of the same thing. And yeah, just very funny that noticing that you can't comment. That means it's not promoting conversation now. And well, that's the whole thing about this, isn't it? Stay at home, lock up, be scared, be ready. You're going to have next jab. It's not going to be called the vaccination passport. It's going to be called your next jab passport. One of the guys in the UK was saying that. I think it was UK. It might be Australia. There's just so much crazy stuff happening in all these countries, and they're all countries that if you didn't do it so slowly, and it hasn't been slow by any stretch of the case of 1.5 years we got to this. But what I'm saying is, if what's happening now had happened, let's see, stuff you see in Australia, if that had happened in week 2 or 3, people wouldn't be putting up with it. People they've been slowly conditioned, but rather rapidly. Like I don't know, like you take blue tack or something, and you stretch it really quickly, it snaps. But you still stretch it fairly quickly and it doesn't. That kind of scenario. People still accepted it, even though it was fairly rapid, because it happened in steps the whole way through. But it still happened fast enough for even, the midway idiot to say, hang on, wait a minute, this isn't right. And you're seeing backlash now. Is that part of the plan? Who knows? One thing I do know is that looking back through history, and this was the the point I really wanted to get to. Looking back through history, when you look at the Mayans, the Incas, and Borobudur, and whatever, Machu Picchu, I think I've already said that. All the Göbekli Tepe and all these ancient places, right? One is they can't date them properly because they don't even, the water running over the Sphinx, that kind of argument where that would mean that it must be much older because water wasn't here since this date, and you've said it's 5,000 years old. They just don't know how old things are. And just like when they recount history that happened in the Second World War, this happened, that happened, that happened. Well, they're things that could be weeks and months apart, but they're telling them as if these are the steps that happened, like as if it was really rapid. It happened over a few days, Well, the same thing. They give these dates as if they're actually quite close, and they're actually not. They're hundreds, if not thousands, of years apart. So they might have not even known each other. What I was thinking is there's similarities, like for example the temple sort of thing, a temple idea. Similarities you can see all over the world. I was thinking, what if it is one group? I'm not saying one race, one group, one collective of people, or are they people who don't just have control now, but they have had control for a long time. And what happens is when every culture gets to the same level, because these things seem to like destruction and ruin and greed and taking. Never, people talk bad about socialism and every ism, right? But if you look at localism, collectivism, socialism, communism, if the things that ruin those two is the authoritarianism that they can't help themselves doing, and that's why you get the bad talk about both of them, because both of them come with authoritarianism. Same as fascism comes with authoritarianism. You don't get fascism without it. You know what I mean? Anyway, my point is, what if the reason all these places are nothing around them is because if you imagine in a city right now, what happens if everything, look at the supply crisis. So you get supply crisis all around the world. London hasn't got any food coming into it. It becomes dangerous as hell. So you can't stay there. There's no food except for maybe eating people eventually. What are you going to do? Some people have stuff in their garden, but the amount of people that you've got there, you've got people jumping over your fence, breaking your house just to get a lettuce, right? So inevitably what would happen is infrastructure would fail, so you couldn't get your water because people, everything would just be chaos. So what would end up happening is everyone would kind of move out. Some people would look for new cities because they're all known as cities. They don't feel comfortable being outside near a tree, right? Everyone else would disperse to the countryside, and a lot would probably be dead. And then those elite get up and they starper off and they start anew somewhere else, and then it starts up for a few places. It starts up again. They get to a new level of opulence, greed, and control, and then it all crumbles under itself again. But the riches might get stolen, but for the most part, they pilfer them and move somewhere else, remelt that gold, make a new civilization. And maybe that's just been happening all along, and this is why they went, why did it suddenly stop? What happened to the people? Well, they dispersed, didn't they? Because what happened is the same what always happens. Cities make concentrations of power. Cities are a place where you want to disarm your population from ownership. You want to disarm them from having a farm. They can grow their own food. You bring them into the city, they're reliant on that. You come here for their job now. Yeah, well, you're definitely not going to look after yourself now. You are sucking off the tit of the system, right? It's the whole point behind a city. So once you move in there, you are mainline feeding the system your energy. Whatever we were doing before, you're working on your farm, you might have shared stuff between your friends, slowly built your farm bigger. So you gain from all of that work, as well as kept yourself going and sold, bartered some, whatever it is you're growing. But when you're tapped into the system, living in a city, you're paying your bill here. There's no off-grid that. It's the water system straight into my apartment. It's the council tax and the building tax for doing cleaning. You're just instantly tapped into this thing that's just starts sucking from you, right? And God, where am I going with this one? With the collapse of these societies, that's what I think just would have happened. Just be a continual you put it in a kind of in a movie form, be kind of like making a house of cards, getting to the top, I'll collapse it down again, although you've crushed a whole bunch of people underneath it. And then you take the cards at the top that are lying in their cadavers, and then you run away with them, and you start making a new house of cards, and then oh, I haven't got enough cards. Well, let me enslave these people to. You can own half this card here if you help me build 4 more. Right? Energy harvesting, just a new way of thinking about it that I haven't thought about before. I've thought about energy harvesting before, but not about how cities work into these things and how these ancient cities are all just left in ruin, totally unpopulated, vacated, right? I think it should be obvious that one, those things didn't happen at the same time. They were throughout time, and it could be a same collective that is doing this again and again and again, same cycle. Greed, debauchery, treachery, lies, control. Then it reaches a fever pitch and bang, collapse, runaway, scarper, lots of death. Next time start up again. Oh, this time they've got a bit further. Now they got to the stage of making so much disorder and chaos and resentment that now they got a good propaganda machine, and oh, excellent, everyone's at war now, killing each other, or not. Okay, next time it's different again. All right, we've actually got 4 different countries here, and they're going to war with each other, but they're not the people making decisions, just the people who didn't make the war, who would never have gone to the other side of the earth, but now they're fighting against that guy and all his country on the other side of the earth, and feeling pretty righteous doing so as well, as is the guy on the other side, his counterpart. We're monumental suckers, but even though I'm calling out things that might be situations, based upon what we're seeing now, finally, we're entering an age with these far out thoughts that people like myself and many others speak about, are looking far more likely all the time, especially when, for example, a situation happens and the only explanation, like, for example, look at the Epstein case. He ends up dying in prison. Okay. Oh, the coroner says it looks like he's been killed, but yet you're not allowed to speak even though you're a coroner. What's it called? Not the forensic, the guy who, pathologist, what do they call it? The guy when you die. Doesn't matter, you know what I'm talking about. So we know about cover-up is open, almost like it's mocking us. See, you know it's against the law and there's something happened, but see, nothing's going to happen because we're so powerful. We're government, or we're the system, or we're the thing above the government, whatever it is. It's clear that's going on because the amount of steps of, oh, that's a coincidence, oh, that's too bad, oh my God, who would have guessed that would have happened? 1, getting off the original charges. 2, finally getting done. 3, and all the people who are fighting against him don't seem to just make charges against him, so he's sitting there for ages. 3, it's taking a long time to get any information out of them. Let's just jump to the point 5, 6, 7, whatever it is, where he's in prison. He tries to kill himself. He doesn't able to do it. He gets moved somewhere else. He tries to kill himself. No one really is spoken to him. It doesn't seem like, who's reporting, yeah, he tried to kill himself, blah, 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 blah. It could have just been the attempted murder fail, operation stop, right? Next try it again, next prison, again he's in the place. Well, if you say he's been trying it before, you're going to be double secure now. Strange that he ends up with enough material to strangle himself, which has no blood in it, even though he's got blood in his neck, and then is able to break his neck. And just the amount of things that's just wrong. Oh, that camera broke. That guard was away. That camera broke. That camera broke. That camera broke. That camera broke. Well, they all, for people who still stand up and say there's nothing odd in that. In fact, I'm not saying you have to believe it, and that there's something there, that the governments are protecting them because so many judges are pedophiles and so many powerful people are psychopaths. So therefore, what do psychopaths do? Well, who knows? Whatever psychopaths do, we know that psychopaths murder and do the most heinous things and have no guilt or remorse. Sounds like sort of people who, if you were to have them an opportunity to take over organizations that have been there for centuries in some cases, they could take over the whole grid of those organizations and be at the head of it and control everything. Well, that's the kind of people that would do that, isn't it? A psychopath, megalomaniac, who understands what power is and what these tools are. I think the writing's on the wall. So to show I'm not crazy, well, maybe I am. Patrick bought out the same thing, and he was talking about, actually Joe Rogan said it as well. If we don't do something now, there's a chance where, if we don't do something now, there's a chance where the power's going to get too much. We can never rebel. It's like resistance is futile. And it's something I've said for a long time across years and many videos I've said it in. How do we know? Because we already know what's kept secret from us. How do we know that it's not going to get to a stage where it's impossible and we might only be a few months away? Imagine finding out when half the human race is slaughtered and you're hiding underground like a Terminator scenario, whatever it might be, that if you had only worked up the balls to do things a few days sooner, X, Y, Z wouldn't have happened, and they wouldn't have got the final piece of their puzzle to create fusion reactors for their new robots, whatever it is, you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Is right now, I really believe if the system had the power to just do whatever it wanted, it would already be doing it. For example, America would already be saying, right, you have to use the dollar, everyone, or else this will happen. China can print the dollar too, so can Britain, so we can all print the dollar as much as they want, each of our central banks do it. Everyone would just lap it up and accept it, as long as the world, for half the population in the world, as long as things move forward and I can still get my ice cream and sit down at the end of the hard day and put my TV on, because they're just fucking Gwendolyn's, just... And this is why we are where we are, but we are in a state where you have to ask yourself the question, is there something that can be done? And if so, should we be doing it now? And if not, what's the repercussion? How bad is this going to get? Because I think we can see everywhere, we have totalitarian governments in different levels of rolling out totalitarianism. Simple as that. I mean, Australia is a prime example. New Zealand's a very soft example, but I know that country. I lived in both of them, right? And I know that the cops in New Zealand are total pricks. A guy I know got shot, Jan Molliner, and he got shot heaps of times by the cops there. They raided his place, knew he had guns. One of the cops he smoked weed with before, and now that they are coming around surrounding his place. It was big news at the time. And my point is, they're also, most of them play rugby. They're all rugby heads. They try to smash you or tackle you or do something fuck if you're in a protest or something like that. So I know what they're like. And you put a gun in their hand, they're itching to use it, So I could, of course there's good cops, but I'd say most of them, it's going to attract a certain type, isn't it? Just like a judge, being a judge attracts pedophiles. It's just the way it is. And being a cop attracts people who got picked on in school and have a chip in their shoulder, or were just like a kind of sadistic person that likes hurting people, or a bully, right? The people that generally you get that percentage that wants to serve. Yeah. Just like governments in the old days might have been people who wanted to serve. As they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like, oh, what's about being a politician? Well, you have power and you get people paying you money to lobby to get you to do stuff. Okay, that's going to start attracting a different type of person, isn't it? And that's what we have today. But again, that's just the cover of the system. I think the eternal system, the background, that doesn't change, whether it's the emperor coming out in front of the people in the big massive square where somewhere in Asia, or whether it's a few thousand years later and it's some kind of druid rings, I don't know, or the Atlantis circles, I think it's just a changing skin to make people think that things are different, but it's the same power that sits in the background. Biblical kind of people would probably call it evil, or the devil, or whatever. Anywho, I'm going to leave it at that. Cheers, bye.